Alright. It's dark because I'm outside. I'm outside my front porch. So if you hear random talking, it's because there's people walking by. This is not my window, by the way. My apartment complex is built terribly. So this is not mine. So I don't want to see any comments of, oh, your blinds are ruined. It's not mine. I didn't do it. Anyway, this is a particular video where we will discuss how to separate succulents from one another. I have this giant beauty behind me that is almost as big as me, as you can see. It's bigger than my cat, and my cat's big. And so this is what we're going to be working on, is what to do and how to do it, how to take apart succulents and make sure that they're still alive. So I've let it sit for about 2 weeks. I got it 2 weeks ago from a very kind gentleman that when I pulled up in my tiny car, he had it on his large trailer. Now, the picture to me, I didn't realize how big it was. So when I got there, he took one good look at me and said, "Do you have anybody to help you?" And I said, "Nope, it's just me." And so we loaded this thing up in my car, and I have a car, I don't have a truck, I don't have anything large or big. And so yeah, I looked very pathetic driving my puny car with this humongous succulent. So my local Ace Hardware sells small bags of succulent dirt. I had just gotten paid, and so I picked up 2, which is perfect for my box here. So I'm only filling it up to the very top, the top line, instead of the very top of the bin. And the reason that I'm doing that is because I want to make sure that when I pull these apart, they're not sitting on the surface, their roots go all the way deep. So when I mean the top line, I really mean the top line. So we're not at the very top of the pot. All right, I'm gonna try to figure out how to do this efficiently. That way you can ultimately see. All right, this is my bin. This is my succulent. Now, I already have this succulent on my back porch. The reason that I bought this guy is because I kind of know the people that are here, and I didn't see anybody else being able to take care of it. So ultimately what you want to do when you pull these guys apart is you find their biggest base, and then you'll pull off the dead leaves up to the point where you plan on burying it. And you only want to do this when you're ready to bury. If you pull off the dead leaves before you're ready to bury and then you let it sit on your porch, then the next layer of leaves will die and so on and so forth, and then this is when you will actually shock your succulent. They won't grow for a while. Now, it's not to say that they won't grow at all. It's just to say that they're going to have a little bit longer period to grow. And right now, with it being cold for me here, I don't plan on this taking off as quickly as it would if it was like, let's say spring or summertime. It has also rained a lot, so when I first picked this guy up, it was soaking wet, and then I put it in my dry car, and that was kind of a shock for me when I picked it up and realized that it was soaking wet. This was a flower, and now it's just a stick, so I'm going to try to wiggle it out. There we go. So that's what they look like at the base, very thin, and then it's also got a dead leaf inside. All right, this is number 1, and again, even though it's cold outside, I'm doing this without gloves because I'm smart, and I've done this a bajillion times without gloves. All right, and then I just bury it and let it chill. Ta-da! And I'm gonna do this a couple more times until this pot is ultimately not filled where it's succulent to succulent, but I've got a good assortment in my bin. So when they do bloom, they put out these really pretty pink flowers, and they're really quite quaint. So next piece, I do have a couple that are loose. Oh, I just dropped him in there. So do have a couple that are loose. I can just set them right on top next to each other. Once they grow roots, then they will definitely take off. Now, I probably should be wearing gloves because even though it's not nearly as spiny as my agave, this is still an aloe, so it's very pokey. And I am poking myself every time I touch it. And especially in the cold, my fingers are a lot more sensitive than normal. So, yikes. Alright, so I'm actually going to put this right next to the first succulent, but not on top of the first succulent. Still have it leaning up against the outside, but still buried. And ultimately what you're doing with the soil is creating a blanket, so it keeps it warm in a sense. It'll keep it drier than normal, so that way even if it rains, your dirt is absorbing most of the moisture, and then it's breaking it up and distributing it amongst other things. Alright, this is a good one. Nice and big. Got a couple babies on there. I don't want to lay it on my lap because I will get poked, but I still want to take off the dead leaves, allow for some better growth. Now, one of the many reasons why you want to take off the dead leaves is so that way, even though they look dead, they're still attached. If you leave them on there, it's telling the succulent that you can still water this. And we don't want them trying to distribute water to dead leaves. So we're ultimately just taking it off of the plant. That way there is no confusion for the plant. It's a plant, it doesn't have a brain, it doesn't understand that, like, this is dead, I shouldn't have to water this. It's like when you have a limb removed, but you still have that ghost pain or ghost sensation. It's very similar. This one's almost dead, not quite, but I'm still gonna take it. That way I give this succulent some space. This is really on there though, because it's wrapped all the way around. 1, 2, 3. Nice. Now, cool thing about this giant plant is if I wanted to, as cheap or as expensive technically as this would be, I could sell these bushels for $10 each and still make well over a good amount of money. If there's anybody on YouTube that wants one, $10. I can hear my cat at the front door. He wants to come join me and help. This is Pokey. Pokey, Pokey, Pokey. Alright. Now, for those of you that have been with me in the beginning, the difference between an aloe and agave is the water collection in the leaves. This one's a white spine, so it has thinner leaves, but aloes tend to store water deep within their leaves, which is another reason why I want to remove the dead leaves. And then agaves store them throughout, and they're particularly more veiny than agaves. So if you were to take an aloe and split open the leaf, it's what we use to help our skin when we've got a sunburn. It's because of all the nutrients that they store in that. Just trying to finish this off. There's one more that does not want to come. All right, this is looking much better. And now the last thing I need to do is wiggle this back and forth until it pops. And then it should just slide out. Ta-da! And then, yeah. So when you separate these guys, you want to save as much, when it is this big, you want to save as much of the roots as possible. It's not always going to work that way though, just because when you do get something like this, it is a giant tangled web. I will show you the root system in a moment. And so what tends to happen is you'll try to pull one away and the root system will actually go underneath the rest of it, and almost like a spider web. After you've got it caught in your face, now you no longer know where it begins and where it ends. That's exactly what these look like, is there is no beginning and there is no ending. You just kind of have to pull what you can find and hope that you're pulling the right amount. All right. Now I don't want this above the soil, but what I'm gonna do is as I move the soil, I'm gonna slowly tuck it across. And I'm not gonna be able to do this whole thing in this little tiny pot. There's no possible way. And eventually in a couple months, these roots will be too big for this pot again. And I will create the tumultuous situation of being root bound in a square pot rather than, you know, free like this. And so that's ultimately what I'm gonna be playing with. So I've got 3 in here, and it's kind of like a hot tub. They're just chilling. I've got a good amount of space for others that I can squeeze in here. I would guesstimate, because of my roots, maybe 2. Again, don't want to fill it up succulent to succulent all the way across. And you can also do this when you want to do like succulent arranging. I'll show you how to do that next year. And the reason that I'm specifying next year is because I have a plan next year. Careful, you will get splinters with this. And so, ultimately when I received it, this is the root system that I was looking at. So this guy could be sitting on top. It could also be tucked inside. Same thing with this guy, could be underneath. I know this is on top because I've already moved it. When I first brought it home, I ended up seeing who was loose and who was still attached, and also gave 2 away, one to a friend, well, both to friends. But as far as separating it, that's ultimately what you're looking for. I would suggest not going my route and wearing gloves. A, it's cold outside for me, and B, with these guys, they are spiny, and that includes up to the dead leaves. They still have their spines on it, and they're still very quite pokey. Even though they're dead, the whole leaf system is dead, it does not soften anything. So when you are removing this stuff, you're trying to grab for, you know, at the base, and oftentimes it's still attached, so you think, oh, I'll just grip it. Well, if it's very attached and you don't realize it, you can actually tear the spines straight into your fingertips and then create other problems for yourself. Not only are you frustrated with the succulent, but now you're frustrated that you don't have gloves on because you're tearing at your fingertips with white spines. But yeah, that is ultimately a beginner's guide of just what to do with succulents like this. Just ultimately cleaning up the root base and then extracting as much of the roots as possible. I am, while I have you here, going to finish up with this particular one that I've already started. It's not going to be great. It's not going to be pretty when I pick it up. It's not gonna really give me exactly what I want, because I'm still gonna have to end up tearing it away. But ultimately, that's what you're looking for. Now, don't be frustrated if it's not as clean pickings like that. You will have to sacrifice some roots. When the gentleman removed it, he had to hack away at some of the succulents, but cool thing with succulents is that they'll survive. And so I explained this to him that it would do just fine. And another thing, even though it's cold, I've had it sitting on my porch for 2 weeks, it won't immediately die because of how hardy they are. And so that's how I was able to just kind of let it chill. I promised myself that I wouldn't let it sit on the porch longer than a month, but it has been getting colder and colder, so I decided that tonight was a better night to do it, seeing as we're all kind of winding up and down for the holidays. I didn't film last week just because we were planning for Black Friday at my work, and I didn't want to be too distracted with it. Also, the people that I normally talk to about filming and what to film and kind of bouncing ideas off of them. Oh, I was thinking about this. That's a great idea. They were also planning on Black Friday, so I didn't want to bother anybody with what should I do. And so since we're all kind of up and down for the holidays, I decided that this is what I was going to start with. And then at the beginning of the new year, I would definitely have a bigger plan as things kind of changed from Christmas to the new year. And then hopefully 2021 will be kinder to everyone. Beautiful. Just gonna, yeah, so oftentimes if you let that floral stick stay in, this is what happens. It'll spiral into the plant and then lay in. For those of you that saw my bloopers, detritus is dead material, dead matter. And so oftentimes if you let leaves, you can't see it very well, but there are dead leaves in here. Oftentimes if you let dead leaves stay inside, it's not bad for the succulent, but it can attract bugs, other insects that like this kind of stuff. And that's also why I enjoy having spiders on my succulents, because it keeps those other insects from going a little too crazy and trying to attack my succulent. And so this one has a good spider web and a half. I would only remove this stick here and then basically call it done. Not get too intrusive, because I do see actual spiders rather than just, oh, it's webs. Because one of the many things that you can get on succulents is spider mites, and they're still mites. They spin spider webs, so it's very confusing. And that also prevents spiders from building their web like they normally would, because they see, oh, it's a web. Obviously there's another spider here, and that can, my cat is going crazy on the other side of this door. I'm gonna be very careful just pushing it in there. And I do have some soil on the back porch that I can ultimately push back over whatever is missing its soil, but just to start, I think this is a good blanket. Oh yeah, look at that little spider bro, just chilling. So yeah, that is just what you do, and how to ultimately just build a starter nest. And then as you can see, there's so much more to go, but I took away so much already. So this is definitely a project that would be great to have many hands help out with, but it's not always the case, especially around the holidays. You can't be like, what are you doing this weekend? Oh, I'm working. Oh, well, me too. So, yeah, just building a starter nest, and super cold. It's like 39 degrees out. And so if you, so side note, basically addition of what we did here. If you get a succulent bigger than normal, I'm not specifying small ones, but if you get a succulent bigger than normal, you can let it sit for up to a month. After that, it does go into shock, but it won't immediately die as long as it's still got some soil on the roots and it's getting sun and water. And then it's easier for bigger ones. You just pull them apart and put them in smaller pots. And then right now, again, it's cold, so for these particular ones, they're not going to take off and grow super fast. But as they do get bigger, then you'll want to transfer them into their own root pot or, root system That way they don't become root bound, because I hate being the one to root bind my own succulents. But it does happen. It's not a bad thing, because when you do transplant them, you feel really good that like, oh, they're gonna get super big now. And then third note, if you want to like take a succulent somewhere and give it to someone, but you don't feel like you need to immediately pot it, you don't have to. Again, you can sit up to a month as long as it's a little bit bigger than normal. If it's about the palm of my hand, I would at least put it in a pot and spritz it with some water. Doesn't immediately need soil, but when it does get to its new location, it does need to go into cactus and palm soil, and that is the best soil for succulents. It's got the proper nutrients and the proper nutrition, the proper diet for your succulent, because after Thanksgiving and Christmas, we all need to go on diets. Anyways, yep, this was a quick 20-minute video on just what to do and how to do it, and quick, dirty, and cold, but anyway, I hope you guys had a very good Thanksgiving, whether you did or did not do something. I kept it small and simple this year, but still made a turkey, so I feel good about that. I hope not everybody died on Black Friday, and that you're still kind of keeping it together this weekend. And I hope that your next holiday, whether that be Hanukkah, Kwanzaa, Christmas, whatever you celebrate, goes smooth. And then I pray to the succulent gods that, like, we need a better 2021. Can we do that? Can that be a thing? Can we ask for that? There's shout out to the universe. Hey, 2020 sucked. 2021 needs to be better. Try harder. I did it. I did it for you. I did it for me. I did it for us. All right. Quick and dirty. Rough and nasty. Only one splinter, but use gloves. All right. All right. Peace out, suckers. Now he doesn't want to come out. All right. Peace out.